Hey everybody, welcome to another SwingBadder as we do our Batter 5 and weekly review. As always, I'm joined by my father and Todd. How are you guys this week? Todd, I know you were a little bummed. We're going to get to the Mets and the Diamondbacks. Dad, I think at this point, when we do a Diamondback update, you should just tell us who else is on the injured reserve for the year. Because it seems like every week you text me another player that is no longer going to be playing for them. And it just the injuries continue to mount for a team that I think is doing the best with what they have. So without further ado, this week, let's get into the Batter 5. Now, we had a newcomer 2 weeks ago. You guys may have remembered them, the Cleveland Guardians / Indians. Now, they were the first time in, and they were fifth place. Todd, you remember they were barely in, and we were like, Almost the White Sox beat them out because the White Sox like to be in the Batter 5 quite a bit. This time, the Indians broke open that door and said, first place is ours. They were 1-5. They were a minus 24 in run differential. They were swept by the Cardinals. They lost to the Blue Jays. They were shut out. These are things that I don't see that often, and I do this every week. 3 times. 3 times this week, they scored 0.
It takes talent.
It's accidental runs happen. Again, when you look at this,
that's an average week for the Rangers.
You're not wrong. They're 3-7 in the last 10. This is the second time they're on the Batter 5, and the second time in this month they're on the Batter 5, which is bad for our monthly Batter 5, obviously. The AL Central started off so good. We were all impressed with them. That entire AL Central is like watching car accidents happen to every team but the Tigers. I believe the Tigers are currently 11.5 ahead of the second place team, which I believe is the Cleveland Indians / Guardians. Their payroll is $117 million buckaroos for a 40-42 record. 1-5 puts them below 500. They're not going the right direction. This has been a bad month of June.
It gets better. You want to hear the batting average for the Cleveland Guardians for the last 7 days as a team?
Sure.
Here's a question. As a team, not individuals, as a team, can you hit above 200? Not Cleveland. As a team, batting 176 in the last 7 days. Their last 7 days, their on-base percentage is 274.
Oh, Lord have mercy. So
listen to me. A double-A team, any random double-A team, could have performed better offensively in the last 7 days than the Cleveland Guardians. I don't know what's going on.
The worst part, again, I have a really good friend. Shout-outs to Mr. Kaiser, big Cleveland fan. And his frustration is we were the comeback kid. We would always be losing and we come back and win. And now they're not coming back to win anymore. They're just not coming back to your evidence of your batting average. When you don't hit, you don't score. So I was like, well, I guess.
When you don't get on base, you don't score.
I guess that's the case. But right now, if the AL Central doesn't have a summer of revival, the AL Central is turning into exactly what we kind of thought it was going to be, minus the fact that Detroit Tigers are the best team in baseball. That's the only thing that, we thought Detroit was going to make the playoffs, but at this rate, Detroit is going to be struggling getting ready for the playoffs because they're going to be so far ahead. They're over 11.5 up on second place right now. They are one of the divisions they are screaming away from everyone else.
Yeah, it would take a minor miracle for Detroit not to make the playoffs. Just to give you a contrast, in the past 7 days, Detroit's batting .299. Their batting average is basically 25 points above the Cleveland Guardians' on-base percentage for the past 7 days.
It's been a bad week. So that's why the Guardians are number 1 this week. Number 2 is a fan favorite. They've been gone for a long time. The Colorado Rockies are back. Now, they had 9 weeks straight of being on the top 5 in the Batter 5 list. And you would think they've hit for the cycle. Now, you may ask, well, Brendan, what's the batter 5 cycle? Well, the batter 5 cycle is really basic. You finish in first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. The Rockies have not done that.
They haven't?
They have not done that. This is their second place finish. If I look at the Rockies overall, and this is why I keep the fun stats. They've never finished fifth.
So if they go bad, they go bad hard.
They have a couple fourths, 3 fourths. They have 2 seconds. This is their second, 3 first place, which is not surprising, and a third. So they have not finished fifth, so they don't have the batter 5 cycle. The Rockies are back. They had a 1-5 record, which is a theme this week. They were a -19 in run differentials. They were swept by the Dodgers. They got 1 win against the Brew Crew. This was a tough week. We all talked about the Rockies are going to have a tough week against the Dodgers and the Brewers. I think the Rockies are on the road to redemption, though, because they have started to string together some wins. Dad, I think the 5-game winning streak is in view. I think they can get there. I don't know how they're going to get there, but they can get there. So,
did you notice that another team that we make fun of has a 7-game winning streak? That would be Miami Marlins.
They were...
As a resident of the National League East, and maybe we can talk about this as a footnote, the Miami Marlins are competing for a World Series this year at this rate.
Dad, they're the only team with no losses this week.
Yeah.
They're the only team.
Okay, name 2 players on the team.
Are we back to this?
Miami Marlins, Jose Reyes, and playing now. Okay.
Jose Reyes. Sorry. So the Rockies are 2-8 in their last 10. They have a $130 million payroll, which is still astounding to be 19-65. They are way out of contention. The only thing the Rockies do is deflate your team when they beat you because you want to sweep them. You're like, the Rockies were going to win. Even the Brewers, that one loss, I'm sure the Brewer fans like, man, we lost to the Rockies, really? So the Rockies are back, 1-5.
You want to hear an interesting offensive stat for the Rockies from the last 7 days?
Sure.
So how many at-bats does a team need to make in order to hit a home run? Just go.
30,
go with it.
25.
What would be like good?
I would say
you figure
under 20.
You figure in a game you're going through the lineup 4 times. 4 times you get a couple runs in there, right?
Right.
So you get 36 at-bats. You throw a home run in there, right? Once every 36, something like that. In the last 7 days, the Colorado Rockies had 1 home run for every 103.5 at-bats.
Ooh.
That's not a lot. That's not a lot. They had 2 home runs in the last 7 days. Were they playing at home?
I don't remember.
One might suggest not.
I'm just suggesting that our big power hitters there, Togley and McMahon, not doing it. I also have another guy named Freeman and Goodman, I think, are pretty good hitters.
Yeah, they were actually at home against the Dodgers, and then they were at Milwaukee against the Brewers.
Coming in third place, this is a first-time winner or first-time coming to the show, if you will. The San Francisco Giants. Now, Todd, I picked them, if you remember last week, and you were like, you don't want to pick them. They're playing junk. They're playing the White Sox, and they're playing the Marlins. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's probably a bad pick. However, my gut was correct. The Giants got swept by the Marlins, and they went 1-2 against the White Sox.
Oh, God.
This was a terrible week for the Giants, who they've been playing great baseball. But because of this 1-5 week and because of last week having a couple stubs of the toe, things that I kind of noticed with teams, the Giants have fallen back to 7.5 games back in the NL West. They're in third place. This was, I don't know how else to put it, getting swept by the Marlins and losing 2 out of 3 to the White Sox. My question to the two of you is this the beginning of the end? Is this the real Giants starting to awaken, or is this just a really bad speed bump?
Dad, I'll let you take that, and then I'll.
I
give
think
my
it's a
opinion.
speed bump. I think they're a good team. I'm not sure they'll make the playoffs, but I say right till the end they'll have a good shot at making the playoffs. They have some good balance in there, and it's just, I say a speed bump.
I agree with Dad because it's not often that you face the Miami Marlins on a week when they don't lose. However, the only team that had a worse batting average in the last 7 days than the Giants was the Guardians. The Giants batted 201 as a team in the last 7 days.
Which
against those two teams.
Yes.
Now
Rafael Devers is not doing it.
Oh no,
he is not happening. Now, Brendan, you called this one. Props to you. Tip of the cap. Be a really fantastic nomination for a batter 5 here, but bringing in Devers and all of a sudden you're batting 201 for the week? I mean, that's a disaster.
I don't think it is. I think he brought his batting coach to the Giants, and they're hitting like him.
Oh, dear.
You got to remember,
Lord.
he started the year off batting like one. I think he's still in the low 200s. If you look at his stats, he hasn't been playing great. Everyone's like he's a really great hitter, and he comes with that wonderful attitude that the Boston Red Sox love so much. Now, I would love to say the Boston Red Sox went to the moon, but that also didn't happen. So is this I look at this as I think the Giants are a fraud of a team. I don't think they're going to be that great. I think this is the beginning where they start to slip down the cliff and go into the despair of where they don't want to be, which is, third, fourth, and out of the wild card, which is where they're headed with they're only 4-6 in their last 10. So they're stumbling and bumbling before the All-Star break, and they've had a great season.
Devers batted 217 in the last 7 days.
Which probably led the team.
No, Christian Koss at second base, 429.
Wow. Only played in 2 games?
I had 21 at-bats and 9 hits.
So the Giants are first time.
He was basically the solo show, I think, for the team.
Giants are the first time making the batter 5, which brings us to very few teams left that have not made it. So I like wiping off that list, which is always fun. The next team did make it 3 weeks ago as well with the Cleveland Guardians. They're also in the AL Central, as the AL Central has taken a giant step back. They're the Kansas City Royals, 1-5, swept by the Rays. They got 1 win against the Dodgers. They scored 1 run in total against the Rays in a 3-game set. Not a 2-game, just a 3-game. This is the second time they've been on the list. Again, like I said, this time they're 4th. The thing that I noticed with this team is their offense has always been poor. It's their pitching that's starting to struggle, and their offense has not picked it up. The Italian fighting machine, the hitting machines that we were hoping for, they're not hitting. Kansas City's not scoring. This team has an offensive problem.
If there's one thing I know, it's Italians. And Italians never go 7 days without hitting.
It's pretty.
So, in fact, in the last 7 days, Pasquantino batted 304.
That's pretty good.
So, however, Caglianone, what are you doing?
He's been terrible.
Jeez. With a batting average like this, it's shocking that Italy even elected a pope. Caglianone batted 48. Not 148, 048 in the last 7 days. 1 hit and 21 at-bats. Like, if there was a player batter 5, he might be nominated.
Yeah, probably. That
is brutal.
Yeah, he's been.
You know the crazy thing, though, about Kansas City is Kansas City in the last 7 days had 14 doubles. They were tied for fourth in all of Major League Baseball with a number of doubles, but they just couldn't convert it to runs. That's weird.
They have a run problem. If you look at them all year long, they are on the bottom of the runs all year long. Like, if you look at the stats of teams and you look at the Royals are right there with the Pirates for not scoring, even though the Pirates scored a ton against your Mets. If you look at teams and runs scored and you're like, oh, which teams are doing great? The Royals are 277, last in the entire league with the least amount of runs scored. And their pitching's been really good, but it's just starting to crack. You got to get some hits. 276 this far into the season. I mean, they're 200 runs behind the Dodgers. I know the Dodgers are leading the whole league with 477, but you got to be in the 350 range if you think you're going to be in the playoffs. And we're really hopeful about Kansas City, so they have got to turn this around, or this is going to be ugly, ugly, ugly. And
15 runs in 7 days is not doing anything. 2 home runs.
Nope.
They're
3-7 in the last 10. They're 4th place in the AL Central. And mind you, like the AL Central has the White Sox, so no one's going to beat the White Sox. So if you're 2nd, 3rd, and you're 4th, you're like basically last for a real baseball team. And if you look at their standings, and it's not a good. This is not a lot of hope out there for the Royal fans. I was looking for it, and this is a bad month. Maybe you scrub off the month of June and July, they come roaring back. But it's been a tough month for them.
That's unfortunate.
And the last team is the Boston Red Sox. They made the trade with the Giants, and they went 1-5 as well this week with a -5 run differential. They were swept by the Angels. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Blue Jays. The Angels are playing much better. We haven't seen them on the batter 5 in quite a bit. They're currently in 4th. They're 8 games back of the Yankees, which is not that bad. 3 games out of the wild card, 3-7 in the last 10. They're 41-44. The AL has better chances to get into the wild card with like a 500 record at the moment. But if you look at Kansas City, Boston, the Guardians, these teams are starting to look like there's too many holes in the ship for them to make a playoff push.
So there were, if the top 3 teams, 2 with whip, as team whip for the past 7 days, 2 of them were in the batter 5. San Francisco Giants team whip was 151. Boston Red Sox were 148.
No bueno.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Colorado makes its back. They're back in it. And if you think about it, I always look at the bottom teams that should be in it. Miami had the best week of any of the bad teams, going 6-0 this week and actually finishing the month off very strong. I look at the Pirates, had a great week, closing out the Mets in a sweep-like fashion, scoring lots of runs. The Nationals also did not make it. If I look at the American League, the A's, White Sox, Orioles, those teams that are bottom feeders were not in the batter 5 this week. So we had quite a variety, but the thing that keeps, when you get these teams from the AL Central, they were just here. We just had a bunch of teams, and they're still there. So I keep waiting for other teams to make their view into this batter 5 list, and it just hasn't happened. So
I want you to listen to the teams that scored the most runs in the past 7 days.
Okay.
Kind of the opposite of the batter 5. You ready for this? The number 1 team in the last 7 days,
Pirates?
Miami Marlins.
Okay.
47 runs
That's a lot for them.
in 7 days.
It's a lot.
They're taking all baseball and compacting it into a 7-day. Now they will go the rest of the season and not play. This is it. We've punched the clock. The number 2 team.
Hold on, Todd. I have to bring this up because the Rangers are something that we cover. The Rangers had 3 games where they scored 34 runs.
This week?
No. There was one series. They were 2-1 in the series. They scored 34 runs. I think it was really quite comical.
Well, the number 2 team this week is also a batter 5 favorite, is the Pittsburgh Pirates. Scored 42 runs this week.
How many against the Mets?
Who?
How many did they score against your Mets?
I don't even know what team you're talking about. All I know is there was some group of junior high school
30.
kids wearing Mets uniforms
30.
that they played against at the end of the week.
They scored 30.
The Pittsburgh Pirates batted .307 as a team the past 7 days.
And 425 against the Mets.
This is what happens when you're throwing against a pitching staff that just gets picked up off of free agency, dropped back into free agency, and then back onto the team 3 days later. That's what happens.
Before we dive into the Mets, which we're
not diving into it. I'm talking about it.
I'm going to give you the batter 5 teams that have not made it, or should I say the teams that have not made the batter 5 list. You have still
All right, go for
the
it.
Yankees and the Tigers. The Tampa Bay Rays are still not making the list. The Houston Astros, if you haven't noticed, are in flight to go to space. They continue to play better and better baseball. The Reds and Brewers have still not been on the list all year. And the Dodgers.
Wow.
That's it. That's the list.
Can I pick one of them
Sure, you can pick three.
that's headed there?
Who do you think is headed there?
My prediction, by the end of this season, the Reds will never make the batter five.
Wow.
I thought you were like,
Reds.
who's going to go there? You're like, the Reds are never going to make it.
The Reds are never making the batter five. I will never pick them. I love the Reds.
It's fantastic news. Good for the
This
Reds.
week, the Yankees are
Interesting.
hitting the skids. Why? Because in the last 7 days, they've batted .213. They are on a downward trajectory. It's a matter of time.
So the Yankees, these are teams that are interesting to me. The Yankees have had 1 week where they've only won 2 games, and that was the second week of the season. It's been 3 and up for them. The Reds have had 2 weeks with 2 wins or less. The Rays have had 2 2-win weeks. And again, it's because the run differential, who they played, they didn't make the list. So if I look at teams that are like Detroit, never has had a 2-win week. Has never had a 2-win week.
It's coming.
It's great, but it's crazy if you think about that. We are almost at the All-Star break, and they have not had a 2-win week. If I look at all of these teams, I'm trying to see. The Dodgers have had a 2-win week.
The Dodgers have spats where they are the kings of suck.
I would agree with that.
Like, that's what the hopes of any team going to the playoffs and playing against the Dodgers. You just need to catch them on a streak where they cannot put anything together for 5 or 6 straight games. That's it.
The other team is the Astros. Have not had a 2-win week.
That's all going to come crashing down because there's no way. They're only good right now because Satan loves hot weather and it's the summer. When it gets to be like October,
Yes.
and things cool off, and maybe Satan will thrive because it's Halloween. I'm just telling you, theologically, the Astros cannot continue this.
So Todd has the Yankees this week, starting off the month of July as a batter 5 contender. Dad, who would you like to nominate in the batter 5 this week?
Well, logic would say there's a couple teams that are going to fall off their hot streak, and they would be the Marlins and the Pirates. However, I'm going to take a long shot. A team that's always good, is due for a punch in the mouth, is going to be Tampa Bay, is going to have a rough week.
There we go.
Interesting.
Now we're talking.
Well,
This team, Tampa Bay is a little too high on their horse anyway. They're getting cocky. They sold like 5 jerseys last week.
They're getting cocky about what? Where are they even in the standings? Hold on, now we got to look at the standings.
Who cares? They beat the Royals and they beat the Orioles.
Tampa Bay's a game behind the Yankees for first place.
Well, tonight they lost to the Athletics.
This is crazy. So, Dad,
They lost to the Athletics on Italian Heritage Night. It's coming. This is it. It's in. So tonight, then they're playing. Oh God, who's picking these? They're playing the A's tomorrow and Wednesday at Steinbrenner Field. Tomorrow is Canada Day. I don't know who picked that promotion. So they're going to lose by a metric kilometer. And then Wednesday is Steinbrenner Field Bobble Series. Taj Bradley. This is a loser.
the pitcher.
Yeah.
He's really good.
Yeah, okay, and then they play the Twins Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and the Twins are angry. Angry.
I can tell you what.
That's a good pick, Dad. I like that.
I can tell you what the Twins are angry with: their lack of pitching.
Yeah.
Because they allow a lot of runs. Interesting pick, Dad. You guys are both in the AL East. I would like to stick with what I know, which is in the West Coast. I'm going to go out there and say I think the Dodgers are due for a bad week. They had a good week this week. They looked very strong. I think the Dodgers usually, I don't know how many times I've watched the Dodgers late at night. They're down 5-1 in the 8th inning, and they win 6-5 in the 9th. And I sit back and I go, this team is so frustrating. And they have so many injuries. They have injuries upon injuries. They just have another player who hurt his wrist, and he's out like what the Diamondbacks did. So I'm picking the Dodgers. We'll see if my gut was right on the Giants. Maybe my gut will be right with the Dodgers. Todd, why don't you just tell me who the Yankees are playing, because that was your pick, and then you can tell me who the Dodgers are playing. That's my pick.
I have the Dodgers schedule in front
Do
of
the
me.
Dodgers first then.
They are at home against the White Sox.
So I'm on the White Sox bandwagon again.
Make your way out to the Ravine on Wednesday for Yamamoto bobblehead night.
Sounds like a good time.
And then I don't even know what is going on Thursday. They're calling it One Piece night. Am I bringing a Glock? What am I like One Piece? Am I bringing a 9mm, a shank, a shiv? What am I bringing?
One Piece.
Or maybe this is like. Am I wearing a One Piece nightie?
I hope not.
Well, then
you can only bring one gun to the game. You can't bring two.
Seriously. And then Friday night is, of course, Independence Day celebration against the Astros.
So the Astros play the Dodgers, and they have the tough team of the White Sox, who put the Giants in the batter five this week.
Yep. And then they have a Hollow Live night on Saturday. God knows what that is. And then they generously will allow kids to run the bases while they're chased by the One Pieces on Sunday the 6th.
So who do the Yankees match up with? So we have the Rays, the Dodgers, the Yankees. Who are the Yankees playing?
The Yankees, I know one of them is the Mets because we're going into July 4th, and nothing says America like they're at Citi Field. Which by that time could be a mess. They lost to the Blue Jays tonight, 4-5. So we're already off to a good start. I didn't know that when I made the pick, so everybody chill out. And then they are at Citi Field, so they're away all week, but they're not traveling that much. So they're in Toronto, and then they're at Citi Field. They should hit Citi Field on the 4th of July, right about the time when the Mets are so threatened with anger and rage that they just decide to sweep a team.
So is that scheduled to have the hot dog eating at Coney Island followed by Citi Field ball games so people can go to both?
That is not a bad day because the Mets start at 3:10 and what's his name will probably be wolfing down about 72 at noon.
Yep. Sounds like that's a good.
He's back. Last year he didn't do it because he had a deal with the vegetarian hot dog company and then realized that this was America and decided to go back to being sponsored by Nathan's.
So before we wrap it all up, Todd, obviously you have the Mets update, but then I'm going to have you go last. Dad, you want to give us the Diamondback update? They had a tough week. They were 2-4 this week. They were on the verge of the batter five. We had a couple teams that were on the outside looking in, wondering how they can get into the batter five. The Diamondbacks were that team this week to me. They started the week 2-0. They finished the week 0-4, getting swept by the hot Marlins. What is your outlook on the Diamondbacks, Dad?
Well, the problem is when you've got in the bullpen, Todd was talking about how they have all these people they cut and bring them up in the bullpen. That describes perfectly the Diamondbacks bullpen. It's a bunch of guys who at the beginning of the year weren't even in the major leagues. Shelby Miller is their most reliable. He's their closer. The Diamondbacks signed him for $1 million on a make-the-team offer. In other words, we're not sure you're even going to make the team. Everybody else after Shelby Miller has come from the minors or people they picked up that other teams had just cut. You know, the latest is that I just noticed they got some guy named John Curtis added to the team. Well, he was on some other team and they DFA'd him. We have a whole bunch of guys whose middle name is DFA. So it's, with a bullpen like that, they had a big lead on Saturday night, 7-3 lead in the 8th. They lost. Yesterday they had a 2-1 lead in the 8th. They lost. They don't have any way of holding a lead. It's what it is leading up to is eventually, but it'll take them 10 days to realize it, they aren't going to go to the playoffs, so they can start making trades of these free agents and start building for next year. They don't want to make the trade now because it'll look like they're giving up. But Mets need a starter. How does Zach Gallen sign for the last?
Sounds fantastic.
So he's going to be available.
Yeah.
All right. So
Dan, when you're describing the Diamondbacks, I just have this vision of the infomercial guy, the guy who did the Flex Seal tape, where he put it and made a boat out of Flex Seal tape. And I kind of think of the GM like that. Like he's cruising around the lake and he's got Flex Seal because every time he comes back, the boat sinks. And he puts more Flex Seal on and he's got all that energy. Come on down to the stadium. We got this player you never heard of. He's DFA'd from that team or this guy from that team. And he has all that energy. You're talking about Diamondbacks. I just keep thinking about that guy because you have a leaky bucket and he puts a tape right on the side. He's like, no more leaks. I'm like, man.
yeah, once we get to the 7th inning, close your eyes because anything can happen with that pitching staff.
So
Well, the problem
It's
you
a-
have with the Diamondbacks is that their expected batting average is about the same as their actual batting average.
the pitching's
There is no,
They can score runs.
Pitching's been an issue.
This team will score runs. But
Yeah.
that's not been the problem.
Yep.
So,
Pitching's been an issue all year long, and it continues to be.
you
with
know,
injuries.
not to change the direction of this talk, but look at the statistics for Ketel Marte. This guy is unbelievably good. I mean,
he's fantastic.
He missed a month of the season with a hamstring, and I think he's like hitting a home run every other day. He's awesome.
What team needs that,
I
Todd?
think he said he's doing the home run derby this year. I think.
Oh, he is? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So what team would need a guy who does a home run every other at bat? What was that team that was hitting it? The Rockies, 130. Marte and Judge.
But how are you trading with? How are you trading with the Rockies? Like, what are the Rockies going to offer you in a trade where you're like, yeah, this is great?
No, the only thing you do with the Rockies is a salary dump. You got a guy who's no good and you're paying him a fortune and just beg them to take him. Because in baseball, you don't have to match salaries like the NBA, so you can do salary dumps. And the team has to be ignorant enough to jump on it.
Yeah.
So Todd, the Mets had a tough week. They 2-2 against the Braves, which we thought was kind of promising after a really bad first place finish on the batter five, and then the Pirates just basically beat them up every which way you can beat up a team. It was pretty bad, you know.
But that was like when I was older and you were younger, and I'd take your hand and hit you, and I'd say, like, why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? That's what the Pirates did to the Mets. Because basically that was what happened with that whole thing.
Yes,
It was disgusting.
they did only score a total of 4 runs against them, and again, the Mets were another team, 2-4. They were sitting there at the door, looking in the window, going, "Maybe we're going to make it." All it took is one of the other teams to get one more win, and I think the Mets would have slammed it in. They were minus 22 on the week, so they would have easily gone into the batter five had it not been for all these 1-5 teams.
Well, if it wasn't for them splitting the series against the Braves too. Look, I hesitate to be the type of person that turns into like a different and not as talented version of Frank the Tank screaming about the Mets and how everything's horrible. And although I did launch a Fire Mendoza chant, I don't think. Listen, this whole thing is a pendulum. And for some reason, with the Mets, and maybe this is with other teams too, what I've noticed is that teams get very streaky together.
Yep.
And it's weird to me because one thing, Juan Soto has had secretly one of the best months of June of any Met in history. His OPS for the month of June was second only to Darryl Strawberry in his prime. So, but you wouldn't have noticed it because after June 13th, when a certain day was at Citi Field, we haven't done anything. But here's the thing that I see when I look at the advanced stats. So one way you know the pendulum has swung too far a certain way, and it's due to swing the other way to even everything out, because we have like the mean, and then we have things just swing up and down. Right now, their offense is really, really low. Their pitching is abysmal, but right now, their expected batting average is 20 points above what their batting average currently is, which means that they are hitting the ball, but it is not getting in. It's not getting into play. They're not getting offense off of it. It is only a matter of time until they run into a series where their batting average and they're expecting that batting average come together. Now, they're expecting batting average is 20 points higher. I would expect them to go on an offensive rip, which is why I picked the Yankees this week, because I think that happens and that goes into this next weekend. That being said, that Pittsburgh Stadium is gorgeous. I watched those games, and when the sun is out and you've got that bridge in the outfield,
Yep.
it is amazingly pathetic to me that you are a Pittsburgh Pirates fan and you have this icon of American baseball in that town, on that river, and the stadium was full of Mets fans. O'Neal Cruz is an exciting player to watch. Like Paul Skeens, even if he's not pitching, that is the colors are great. The stadium is great. You guys got to people got to get on that. That is a gem of Americana, and people got to get with that program there.
Have you driven? I'm sure you have driven into Pittsburgh to see the stadiums, how they have them laid out on the river. I'm telling you, that city is laid out perfectly. It's really beautiful. Pirates again are on a tear. They just whooped the Cardinals 7-0. So the Pirates are really feeling it. So
side note, with the passing of the Cobra, Dave Parker, a couple days ago. And what was incredible to me was finding out that he's only going into the Hall of Fame next month.
Yep.
And he's missing that. And this guy just dominated. I mean, in his time, he was with Pirates and with the Reds. Somebody was saying John Franco, the reliever for the Mets, played with Dave Parker when he was on the Reds. And he said that guy would get up in the locker room every night and tell the team one reason to hate the other team.
Oh, that's so great.
He'd come up with something. They said something about your mother. This guy doesn't like you. Just find a reason to hate him.
Yep.
And that was he just was an incredible competitor. And I just remember he just was really a massive hitter. So sad to see that happen.
Well, the Diamondbacks will hope for better days. The Mets obviously will hope for a better week in review. As far as our batter 5 picks, I have the Dodgers. Dad, you have the Rays. And Todd, you have the Yankees. Yep. And as always, we are here every week to go over the batter 5, to tell you how baseball looks, tell you what looks good, what looks bad. The nice thing is we're now going to start doing batter 5 monthlies. We're going to start looking at players that are performing. We got a lot more batter 5 for you. And as always, as you're sitting in work and you're looking around, don't be the batter 5 at work. There's one of those guys at work, one of those ladies at work. Don't be that. I'm your host, Brendan. That's my father. That's Todd. Thank you all for joining. Like, subscribe, share.